For more debates, updates, and bonus content, sign up at thebigconversation.show.
I tried to put a case for why we feel altruism, and because of once living in these small villages, and so
Yeah, it didn't quite work for me though. Again, Richard, you're taking a particularly impressive and somewhat puzzling aspect of human behavior, radical altruism, the sort of Oscar Schindler who risks his life and ultimately loses it for people he doesn't even know, and saying, well, it's just a misfiring. It doesn't set well with one's sense as a human of how to admire that.
but okay, misfiring doesn't have to have the pejorative connotation that you've put on it. I mean, you could say that the desire to adopt a child. I mean, many people adopt a child. Now, that is a misfiring, but that's not a pejorative. I mean, it's an admirable thing to do. It's a wonderful thing to do, but it is a misfiring of the Darwinian impulse to want to rear a child of your own, and that's fine. It's a beautiful
Then
thing.
why do we admire it?
Well, we have the
Yes, it
desire
is.
to rear a
You know,
we have
people
the
who
desire to
study
rear a child for good Darwinian reasons, which you and I would agree with. But then, when a couple cannot have a child, they have that desire. It's like the desire for sex, which you still have the desire even though you're using a contraception. Similarly, you still have the desire for a child, even though you are, for one reason or another, unable to have a child of your own, so you adopt one. Now, that is technically a misfiring, but please don't think that I'm saying anything that pejorative about it. On the contrary, I think it's noble, as I think the sort of Oscar Schindler behavior is extremely noble.
But presumably you believe that the nobility we see in such an act goes beyond just an evolutionary thing. You believe that there's a real right and wrong that exists in the universe that we're kind of seeing and acting upon in that sense.
I do see that, and I am not happy dismissing it on purely materialistic grounds. Well, those who study sort of what's exceptional about humanity, they always come up with these three characteristics of what it is that we are attached to. One is truth, which at the moment is a little bit underneath fire, at least in my country. Another is goodness. Where does that come from? And the third is beauty, which we touched on, and which I also think can't be dismissed as we're just peahens. We see beauty in equations. We see
Francis,
beauty in music and in a patch of pink in the western sky at sunset. And it doesn't seem to have a whole lot of evolutionary benefit to us, and yet it matters. And it also lifts us in a certain way into a plane of something other than the sort of pure dailiness of our experience, some glimpse of something what Lewis calls joy, where you have just this sense that there's something more, if I could just grasp it, and then as soon as you try, it's gone. And that feels to me like a real significant experience that should not be dismissed as a neurotransmitter that just
but
lost
you
its
keep
way.
using words like dismiss. I mean, I don't dismiss it. I exult in it. I mean, it's wonderful. It's beautiful. And the fact that you can give it an explanation is not to dismiss it or demean it or reduce it in some way. Yes, I mean, a sense of beauty, the sense of the enjoyment of Beethoven, it is actually firing of synapses in your brain, but that's not to demean it. It's still wonderful.
And incredibly wonderful. And it's not, Polkinghorne's line comes to mind that beauty is not something we should dismiss as just evolutionary, epiphenomenal froth on the surface of an uncaring universe.
But that's an emotive language again. It's not dismissing. It's not froth. It's wonderful, but it's explicable.